Well, going a little deeper in intent analysis and main types, normally frequently asked questions are previously identified and related to services that the organization provides. In the case of KRA, will be tax and customs related questions. These frequently asked questions, or FAQs, are not new to the organization and normally are found in the organizational portal or in the CRM software that customer services uses to attend users or client calls or interactions. On the other hand, task assistance normally are tasks that the user needs to complete related to the provided service. In case of KRA, will be things like verifying a tax certificate, reset a password, or maybe ask for the current account balance from a specific taxpayer. Let's talk about some characteristics of the frequently asked questions. There are limited questions an organization or its representatives can or should answer. Not every question should be answered. Not anything should be uh, addressable for answering in between the scope of the organization services. All the answers should be correct, technically and legally, because the user will use that answer to do something. So this should be correctly verified with technical people and also legal people. The agent will try to understand what the client wants to ask, compare it with what it has in its knowledge database, and if it finds the answer, it will provide it back to the user. If the agent does not fully understand the questions, it may reply with some alternatives, which can help both of them to find the correct answer. Not always the agent will understand the question. Not always the client will make itself clear, or maybe the question asked is understood, but there's no answer placed in the database yet. Some characteristics for tax assistance. The user might want to get an assistant task. Not all tasks he or she wants may be available, so it should be a good idea to show a list of available ones. When the user selects a task, the agent will ask for input information to process the task and provide an answer. Tasks should be fully automatic and will require IT intervention to provide the proper API or application program interface, so the agent will securely send the user data and get the reply. There are public tasks and private tasks. The private task should ensure the user is properly authenticated. Well, but there are so many questions. How can we organize this? Let's take a look at a sample of frequently asked questions of a Google query. We got here some statistics provided by a known database of what people are asking, in this case, on search engine like Google. And we can see here that most of the top 1,000 questions asked to Google are of the type how to, doing something, or what is, or asking for a definition. There also is what does something mean. But the top of the questions by the intent to know how to do something or what is 82.7%. Adding other more like how much, when is, when does, goes up to 90%. This sample analysis wants to show that many of the frequently asked questions normally fall into some type of category of the intent to know how to do something, what is, or the definition or something. And this is like a parallel analysis, so we can understand the analysis we made with the KRA portal and the frequently asked questions provided by the KRA team for this project. In this slide, we can see the same type of analysis. Here we have some of the questions like how to generate an e-slip, how to pay for capital gain tax, how to receive my refund, how to add obligation, etc. Also, what are double tax agreement incentives, what are exemptions from VAT, what are non-profit incentives, what is advance tax, what is agency revenue, etc. All these questions come out from the KRA portal and also from frequently asked questions identified by the chatbot team. We made an analysis of these ones for a total of 143 questions, and we also see here the same pattern from Google searches. There are how to and what is, and these two combined go up to 93.7% of all the questions identified. So this doesn't mean that we shouldn't take or pay attention to the other type of questions, but it will mean that we should prioritize the ones that we have the most. Okay, but how does the bot understand the question? Let's see. One of the examples we have here is what is the rate for capital gains tax for individual? It could also be the question like, what is the rate of capital gains for a company? We break down this question in four main parts. The intent, as we saw before, what is or how to, for example. We also have identified a main topic that will be a main topic related to the organization or the services that provide the organization. In this case, a tax-related topic like capital gains. That will be income, tax income, or VAT or PAYE, or other types of concepts that are related to the tax administration. We also find a category, as I said before, could be a question related for a category of taxpayer like individual, business, non-profit organization, etc. And also we have an additional information. In this case, the user wants to know the rate for the capital gains that we will identify as a noun. Okay, let's see another sample. How to register for PIN for diplomat individuals. Here we have the same type of breakdown. First, the intent. He wants to know how to do something. In this case, the do something we identified with an action, like he wants to know how to register. The main topic in this case is the PIN, or the personal identification number. We also have a taxpayer category like individuals, diplomat individuals. So this is an example of breaking down, or two examples of breaking down the questions based on the previously analysis of intents, of the most frequently intents intents that the user asks. So for that, we prepared a matrix with these questions. Here's a template or an example of the questions with, we have here, well, number should be properly ordered, the questions, the question, the properly review, answered. We should also provide, if we have available, a link to where the user can find more specific information about this topic. This will be maybe a link to the KRA portal, or depending on the case, maybe will be a link to a video that the organization posts related to this topic. In case of videos, normally they are made for repeatedly asked questions that will need a way to show in like easy way to understand for the users. Maybe a video or an image or a document. Here we have the topic, like we said before, the advanced tasks, the intent, what is, and the taxpayer category. Well, we have here a column for action in the case of intents that require this information. So this is an example of the matrix that should be completed for organizing properly the questions that are supported, the answer, and the information to classify it. Okay, that's interesting, but we heard a lot that the chatbots use artificial intelligence. Where does this artificial intelligence takes place? Well, chatbot use artificial intelligence with two main technologies. The one, as we see here in the diagram, is machine learning, and the other one is natural language processing. Let's go first to machine learning. Machine learning uses algorithms that help the chatbot to learn from previous queries and the data that it was provided during training. When a query is triggered, the machine learning algorithm helps the bot to first monitor what a past conversation and identify if it's similar to what the user is asking now. So this means that the machine learning algorithm goes to the previously questions log, and then tries to understand what the user is asking now in terms of how similar the question is to previously asked questions. The other component is natural language processing. It's popularly known as NLP, which provides assistance to the bot to understand and interpret the information closely. With NLP, you train your chatbot with various intents that the user will type during conversation, or type or ask during the conversation, and these intents will streamline the response to the query. NLP works with different intents and entities. So this part of the natural processing we see here, the query will go through this component and it will identify the intent, in this case, for example, what is, and the entities like capital gain tax, the tax rate, and the category individual. This is how the artificial intelligence is involved in chatbots. These artificial intelligence services are specialized services that are now mainly provided by cloud services from big companies that has the power, the technology power to have many computers and many computer power to do this more efficiently. Well, now we can go a little deeper in how we design the chatbot web pilot. This is an example of the login screen we developed for the pilot chatbot. In this case, we see here in the background the KRA portal where we suggest to include a small button that will be available to the user to click, and then this login screen will come out. This will have ask for the username, in this case, a cell number, and if it's properly configured and KRA wants to allow multi-language support, it should select in which language he wants to address the chatbot. A little comment about what to ask here is we expect it not to be too complicated to use to prevent the user to enter, but to get enough information for statistic analysis. Of course, this will be only for public questions or with public answers. If we need to, or if we will provide private answers, that will be, they will need another step for proper getting the credentials. We also have here a small section where the user agrees when he logs in for terms and policies that should be also be carefully reviewed with the taxpayer, with the KRA attorneys, so that we can make sure that there are properly configured terms and conditions for the user when using this service. Well, after he logs in, or he or she, the user logs in, he will get something like this. This is a design, a starting design of the chatbot, where you can see here to the left a list of the users that are engaged in the conversation. We can also see a small message that can be configured also, like we say here, hey, we are at KRA, we are glad to help you. There's also a regular chatbot-like design with the user that is displaying or saying something, the hour or the time at which he or she said that. And in this case, is the chatbot, and it has a welcome screen. Right after he or she logged in, you will get a welcome screen. Like in this case, welcome. I am trained to answer questions in the form of how to, like how to correct date of birth on iTax, or what is the legal framework for ADR. These questions, this is important because it will tell the user how he can ask the questions, so the chatbot will better understand it. He also tells that he can ask for assistant tasks, and he can click on assistant task here for a list of supported ones. It also says that you can always ask for top questions, or after an answer is found, ask for next to get another related question. In this example, he can click here and get the list of the top questions he's getting. The chatbot is answering right now. We also have in the bottom the section for the user to write his questions, to send it, and he also can have he can click on view chat to get all the information of the conversation he engaged with the chatbot, everything. Maybe he can save it or send it by email to his email. He can at any time ask for help. So we normally will display something like the welcome message that will has the proper instruction of how to use the chatbot. If he or she does not want to talk to a chatbot, to a robot, he will have the option to get or speak to an agent. Of course, this will be available only in proper hours or schedules and not be available 24/7. When he clicks this option, the system should interact with the CRM system and identify if there are agents available and at what time or in how many minutes an agent could interact with it. Of course, there should be a way to close the conversation. In this case, we added an option to say bye or goodbye or close should be here. And when he clicks this, the system will tell him we're going to close the conversation and ask for a rating, how was the service. Here's an example of one of these extra functions like related topics. Next, in this case, the user asks for a question like how to file a PYE, and the bot got a response. And this is the response that it was filled in the knowledge database. And when the user gets the response, he can click on next topic, and the system will get more information related to that topic. In this case, PYE. We see here, he asked previously how to file for PYE. When he clicks next, then the system will say, okay, I got more information related to PYE, in this case, how to pay for PYE. So he will get both answers just as quickly as clicking on next topic. Okay, but how do we see or monitor if the chatbot is working properly? Normally, the customer service agents have a mechanism to identify if they are answering the questions of the users correctly or in time, or how much time passed since the user asks a question and he gets a proper response, etc. We also should have this type of controls in a chatbot. We have here two samples of reports. One of these is the one that displays all the chatbots, all the chats that have taken place in the last time, in last period, with the hour and the time, which device he used, maybe with a web chat, or maybe we can explain this a little further. He can use a device like a phone to ask questions for the chatbot. He will say here. the username that the user provided, at what time the, the conversation took place, and what happened, what was the reason to close the conversation. In this case, maybe, for example, too long no interaction will mean that the user engaged in the conversation, but after that it stopped asking questions and there was no reply, and the bot asked, do you want to know more? And the user didn't answer. So there should be a way for the chatbot to close the conversation, so it won't be a open conversation that they will never close. So, and also, for example, the client just closes the conversation. In this case, client left, or the user got this answer and used the option to close the conversation and provided a rating for the service. Here's also how many interactions did the user have with the chatbot. Meaning, for example, in this case, in the second one is 16 interaction, that will mean 16 question and answers that got in this conversation. Here we also have a detailed view or information of one of these specific conversation with what the user said and what the bot responded, at what time, and how it identified the question or not. So this should be always available. So what is happening with the chatbot should be properly monitored and identify what is going on with the chatbot service. There's also statistics that can be provided. For example, how many types of intents are being used during time. For example, we can see here there's a peak of questions related to what is or how to. Depending on this information, the chatbot supervisor can maybe get deeper information of what the user or the overall users are asking for the chatbot. Also, we have here some diagram that how the rating was for the service. And we can see here if the user rated 1 out of 5 or 5, or just didn't rate it at all. And we can see here if the chatbot is getting a proper response for the rating survey, and of course, for out of the answers, we can get to know if the chatbot is being perceived bad or good from the users. Also, there are some other interesting key performance indicators that may be developed in the chatbot. For example, chatbot versus agent interaction rating. This will identify if the user in average rate better the interaction with the agent or the bot. This means that maybe at some point the interaction with an agent is preferred than the bot, or the interaction with the bot is preferred than the agent. It should be interesting to take a look how this is developing over time. Also, the percentage of users asking for an agent. This is important because at some point, the KRA that implemented the chatbot will want that most of the answers will be conducted by the chatbot. But first, when this project starts being implemented with the user, many people will say, I will prefer to ask a question to a real person agent. So this indicator will probably will be changing over time. Maybe the percentage of people asking for an agent will be high at first, but then it should be go down accordingly to the good experience that the users get when they interact with the chatbot. We say here this should be low, meaning that the agent intervention is not required most of the time.